I just wanted to first tell you I'm just really excited to have you on the podcast because everything you say is just gold. So I'm thinking what we need to do is put that Wharton MBA to use, and we can make some great Scent Work t-shirts together and sell them. What do you think?
I cannot believe you know that little tidbit about me.
Oh, of course I do. I do my research. I do my homework. Yeah, you had quite a career before you kind of dedicated yourself to Scent Work full time, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I should probably say this. This is Alert Scent Work. My name's Scott. I'm Murphy and Kiva's dad. And with me is Sandra Tung, competitor, trainer, and judge, mother to Chiron and Cajun. Is that the pronunciation correct?
You are really good. Yeah, most
Okay.
people have trouble pronouncing Chiron's name.
Chiron. And are you mom to other dogs too that I don't know about?
Yes, I also have an older dog, a Shiba Inu named Tayo.
Yeah. Was that your first Scent Work dog?
No.
Is that first Scent Work dog no longer with us, I'd imagine then?
Yeah, they both pass. Well, one passed this year and the other passed in 2020.
Yeah.
So I started with Shiba Inu.
I know that, and I want to talk to you about that because not a lot of people use those dogs in Scent Work. So
They're really great little dogs and they're cute to boot.
yes, you're right. They are. All right. So I want to know, how did you get involved in Scent Work? I know you've been around for a while. You were one of the first AKC judges to judge Scent Work back in 2017. Were you involved? You were obviously involved in the sport before that. So let's talk about that origin. What is Sandra's origin story?
Well, everybody started somewhere. I never had a dog in my life until 2010. And, I got my first Shiba Inu. She was my first dog. She was not a puppy. She was a retired breeding dog from a show breeder. And I wasn't intending on doing any sports or anything of that nature at all. But a doggy friend convinced me to take rally obedience classes with her. And that's how I started, doing dog sports. I think back in 2011, when nose work, which is, what the original sport was, starting around that time, somebody mentioned, a local trainer is starting a nose work classes and asked if I would be interested in. And I was hooked in everything dog related, so I signed up. So by the time AKC rolled around in 2017, I've been competing in NACSW for over 6-7 years.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were doing all sorts of dog sports. So you're like, all right, let's just do one more. Let's do some nose work. And I know that you still compete at a very high level in all those other sports. But what was it about that nose work that kept you doing that as well? Or is it just another fun thing to do with your dog? Or is there something special about nose work to you?
Well, initially, it's just a side gig, like what Donna said. Agility is the main thing that I do with my dogs. And scent work, nose work, it sounds interesting. It's new. And it involves food, and dogs like food. So
Yeah, right.
that's how I got started. And as I progress, from a newbie in scent work, nose work, to a more experienced handlers, to eventually teaching and judging, I really appreciate the sport. It's very different from all the other sports I was involved in, or I am still currently involved in, where the dogs take the driver's seat for the most part. And as a handler, I have my input, but I always take into consideration my dog's choices and decisions because really they are the experts. But at the same time, I realize that there are certain things as a handler that I am responsible for. So I shouldn't be just following my dog without thinking about my responsibility as a handler. So it's a balanced approach where the dog leads the search, but as a handler, I need to make sure we cover the area. I manage time. No matter how well you train your dog, they never would understand the concept of time management or covering the area.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like everybody describes Scent Work teams as a team. And it is a team, but I almost feel like what you're saying, the dog takes the lead and we're really just support staff, right? Like we're even less than a team. We're just there to be like, all right, hey, by the way, I know that you're really busy over there, but why don't you come over here and check when you're done checking over there? Because we should check over here. I'm trying to think, like we're a personal assistant almost. Do you think that's taking it too far or
People use different, analogy to describe that relationship. Uh, I think of it more like my dogs are the subject matter expert, and
Mm,
as a team together, I'm more like the supervisor, manager.
okay.
Uh, I have certain responsibility to make sure we do the project on time, on budget. But how to actually do the job, most of it is relying on my dog, and I train my dog to the best of my ability, so they know their task. And if I do ask them to do something, they should humor me and take my suggestion uh, seriously. But if there's nothing, don't tell me there's something there just because I ask.
Right. I'm hearing that Wharton MBA come back again. Like a great manager empowers their team. A great manager helps train their team, make sure their team is motivated, empowers their team, and then they take care of those other details that you talked about that the team, in order to do the team to do as best as they can, you have to handle those details.
And sometimes, I make wrong choices as the manager or as the handler. And it's a conscious decision and risk that I know I'll have to take, as part of the team.
Yep. Yep. I love it. I like your analogy a lot. So you're an AKC Scent Work expert judge, a term that I've only heard recently and a term that's only used for a few judges, and you're one of those. What does that mean exactly?
AKC never really clarify what it
Okay.
means.
But it looks good on a
and
CV, right? On your resume.
and I don't really know if that really have any significance nowadays. I think early on when AKC just started its scent work program, they casted a wild net to take judges with somewhat relevant experience, and some are more experienced in the sports of scenting sports than the others. Expert judge probably are handpicked by the early on personnel, at AKC who is in charge of the direction of the program, where they probably pick people that they have known who are in the sports for quite a while, who might be more experienced than someone that they do not know. And early on, the expert judges are needed to provide some mentorship or evaluation. I don't remember the details, but nowadays, AKC lifted that limitation of, who can mentor new judges.
Right. Yeah. But I think it still sounds great. So you should keep that on your resume for sure.
I do.
Good, good, good. So I want to talk about some of your mantras. So one of the motivational poster sayings that I think we need to put on a t-shirt or a poster that really stuck with me that I heard you say was respect your dog's choices, or maybe it's respect your dog's decision. What is the exact verbiage of that?
Actually, when you mentioned that, I was like, really? I say that?
No, you did it around. Yeah, and you kind of said it, you alluded it to it already in this conversation, and that one really resonated with me because like you said, the dog is the subject matter expert. So if your dog chooses to go somewhere and hunt, you have to respect that and allow them to do that, not try to override, which I think sometimes as handlers, especially in containers are buried, or even when we have our plan for our interior, exterior searches, we have our plan and the dog wants to go left and we want him to go right, but you have to respect that dog's choice. So that really resonated with me. Am I getting how you believe that correct? Is there some more nuance you'd
Yeah,
like to add?
what you are describing is, what I believe in general, but I don't believe I say that in exactly those words.
Okay. All right.
And well, there are many things I like to say to students or anyone that is willing to listen.
Yeah.
But
So I want to jump in. What are a couple of the things that if I was to say, what does Sandra say all the time in class? What would your
oh
students say? Give me 2 or 3 examples.
yeah, they will say, "Be a hot date to your dog."
Tell me what that means. I love it.
um, Initially, I tell people, well, how I come about with this sentences or phrases. I see a lot of students or clients or even competitors that, I have the honor to judge to be quite stingy when they reward their dog. So
Mm.
initially I said, don't be a cheap date. And everybody kind of laughed, when I say that.
Uh-huh.
And as time goes on, I said, let's be a little bit more aspirational rather than, just aim for the low bar of not being a cheap date. Why don't you aspire to be a hot date?
Right.
And and whenever you go out and ask your dog for a date, to play the sniffing game, they should be like, yeah, 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 sign me up. I'm available versus let me check my calendar. Uh
I love
so
it. Yeah.
I say that to students, clients a lot. Uh, in competition, in trials, you might be under pressure. You might be nervous that you may not pay as generously, but especially in training, you really should make it a big deal for your dog. And it's not just the food; it's how happy you are, how proud you are with them. It should be a whole package that the dog feels like it's really making you happy and you are providing them something that they love. Most dogs love food, but not every dogs do. You have to consider, what is rewarding for your dog and reward them, reinforce their behavior accordingly. Um, it with scent work, most people focus too much on imprinting the dog early on. You know, of all my years doing scenting sports, I've never encountered anything that says my challenge with my dog is my dog doesn't recognize the target odor. The problem is usually the dog doesn't prioritize target odors in all environments. And being a hot day, showing the dog that you appreciate their work, their efforts, really, get that idea through their head versus worrying about, hey, does my dog know odor? Every scent work dog that I've ever judged or I've ever seen knows birch, anise, and clove. It's just what they consider to be rewardable. Is that source? Is that a specific alert? And how the game is played? Is the dog actively hunting or is it the dog only reacting, when odor is readily present in their proximity?
Got it. Give me one more saying that your students say. Sandra says that all the time. I love them. I want more.
Um, well, I said a lot of things, and I don't always remember what I said. But other thing I tell people is, as they progress in their learning, they need to be not just a passive handler. They need to be taking a more active role as the dog gets better.
Right.
The difference between a good team and a top team is really the handler. You can have really well trained dogs, but handled by different handlers with different skills. It shows the big differences between those teams.
Right.
And being a good handler doesn't mean you are always you know trying to manipulate or micromanage everything. You need to be understanding as part of the team what's your strength. Yes, you want to cover the search area, but sometimes you don't have the time given the space that you have to search. And you have to trust that your dog is trained well enough that the dog will tell you where are the productive areas. And when the dogs are in productive areas, give them time so they have a chance to solve the puzzle versus overriding them and worrying too much about covering the area and just drag them away or tell them, hey, come on, let's go somewhere else. If the dog tells you there's something in the area, give them time to investigate. And at some point, if the dog is not making progress, yes, as a manager, you should move the dog on in the interest of time. But that's only after your dog has a chance to work that area.
Yeah. That could be really easy to do that, to maybe move out a little quickly as opposed to allowing your dog the chance to solve the puzzle. So finding that balance, I think, is, like you said, that's one of the skills that a good handler has versus, perhaps a new handler.
Because if you are only thinking about covering an area, if you're in an unproductive area, no matter how hard you work, both you and your dog, you're not gonna find something out of nothing.
Right.
So covering the area is an important strategy, many people talk about, but it's really covering productive area. But the challenge is, how do you know which area is productive? And when it comes to covering productive area, you're really relying on your dog, the subject matter expert, to be the one that is leading you to the promised land.
When you are judging and you're watching a team, what do you notice that makes you go, that's a good team? Even if they don't cue in that round, what do you notice?
Well, first I look at, how the game is played between, the human and the dog. Some team, the handler is the one that is leading the search. The handler is constantly nagging and saying, find it, search, search. Some team, the dog knows its job and the handler is supportive and paying attention, honoring the dog. It doesn't matter whether the dog is fast or slow or what kind of style they have. Do they have an understanding of who's in charge of what? And how can they play this game where it's a team sport? The human is really more than just a treat dispenser. You know,
Right.
many people kind of jokingly said they are just a treat dispenser. They are really setting the bar low and not thinking they really, really influence the outcome of a search.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have noticed when you spectate or volunteer, it's not about whether the dog has the skill to solve certain type of puzzles. Sometimes whether a team is successful or not is based on whether the handler, keep the dog in unproductive area for too long or not giving the dog time in a productive area and, boogie off and go somewhere else, finding, wanting to cover new area where there's nothing.
So, many of my guests have said reading your dog is so critical, and I'm hearing two aspects of reading your dog. Is your dog in a productive area, or is your dog not in a productive area? Are pretty important. That would be almost in the top 5 of the jobs that manager needs to do. That partner, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Great. I think it was honor your dog's decision. I think that's what you said. It wasn't respect, but when you said the word honor just now, that rang the bell. Honor your dog's choices or honor your dog's decisions. I think is what you said. So thank you for getting me back to that saying that you didn't know you said, but resonated so much with me.
Yeah,
um,
for most of my students, they know I said the hot date,
yeah.
don't be a cheap date, and they all get a laugh out of it. And I know one local competitor um, or a student, she was at a sniff and go event, and the volunteer judge, was giving her some feedback after their search. And the volunteer judge asked her, who is your instructor? And the student said, oh, Sandra. And immediately the volunteer judge, who is also a student, said, Sandra must have told you to be a hot date. Why are you not, paying your dog enough? And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, your reputation has preceded you. People
Yeah.
know what your students should be doing. That's funny. Your dogs, from the videos I've watched, are really known for having drive and confidence, and I think you're known from competitors I've talked to that know you for building that. How do you develop drive and confidence in your scent work dogs, especially drive? Does that
Well,
come back to the hot date again? Is that really it, or is there more?
I don't know. When I first started, I started with an off breed, right? Shiba Inu. Um, knowing what I know now, I felt really bad, how I train them and handle them.
Yeah.
Um, my Shiba likes to eat, but they don't love to eat. And I used to be the crazy woman who brought, a bunch of different high value treats. And people think I'm bringing a whole bunch of dishes like buffets, trying to see, which is that one magic treat that would just get my dog to be on fire and going crazy. With the Shibas, I never accomplished that. I
Yeah.
never, I'm never able to find that magic pill. Um, but I think a lot of time, people early on wanting to replicate the desire of what you might see in a trial at the expense of building the dog's confidence and enjoyment of the game. Uh, Many clients ask me, what can they do as a homework when they're not in class? And for most new teams, inexperienced team, I tell them the most important thing is set simple hides, pay really generously, short session, short and sweet. You pay a dog a CEO salary for flipping burgers, and you do it in all kinds of places, and that will carry you much further down your scenting career than constantly working on high, suspended high, elevated high. Not that you don't need to work on those skills, you do, But most dogs, they struggle when they are in a novel environment where there are other competing things that either distract them or worry them. So, whether, you start with the dog on searching for primary or starting with imprinting odors, if you are skilled and you know what you are trying to build, you will be successful either ways.
I'm curious, when I watch you also run your dogs on video, one of the things that you seem to do really well that I struggle with, and I think a lot of handlers struggle with, is remembering where we found our hides. And I know in some searches, I see that, you said Chiron found like 18 searches. And I'm like, I didn't even know they could place 18 searches. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But how do you keep track in those higher levels where there's a lot of hides, where you found hides? What's your secret?
Practice makes perfect. Well, you are never perfect, but you should practice all the time.
Yeah.
And most people only practice when they run their own dogs. And I tell my clients it's very important to practice, especially when you are not running your dogs. So if you are volunteering, if you're spectating, if you're just in class watching your classmate run, that's great opportunity for you to practice your memory, to remember how many have you found or how many that person has found, where they have found them, what is the sequence of their find. The more you practice, the better you will have a system of, in that moment of finding a high, rewarding your dog, and before moving on, what are the quick one or two things, descriptors that you can attach to that find. And hopefully you can retrieve that from your memory bank later down the road. Um, if you don't practice and you only practice when you run your dog, you have so many things on your mind, right? You are multitasking, you are watching your dogs change their behavior, you are trying to manage time, you're trying to, cover the area, you're trying to decipher, is that a true change of behavior? Does my dog need help? And all that is making it harder for you to focus on memorization.
So what
Uh,
I'm hearing is that when you do a find a hide, you might go, all right, first table near threshold, left corner. Is that you kind of say out loud where that's what I do. What do you do that in your mind, or how do you do that? The one or two
I
words.
usually do it in my mind, but you have to start somewhere and it takes practice, right?
Got it.
So everybody has a different memory system, how you can retrieve your short-term memory efficiently later down the road. So for example, a lot of people, started with an object, right? You find a high on a chair, you say chair. And then if you find another high on a chair, you're like,
Yeah,
chair,
right,
right?
exactly.
The same with ground high or crack high. You're like I've done exercise in classes where there are like 5, 6, 7 crack highs in a big area.
Oh, wow.
And I have people who initially said, number 1, crack. When they called the second one, they're like, number 2, crack.
Yeah, right.
Number 3,
Right.
crack, right? So you need to grab as many as possible, at that moment. And that's another good reason for paying your dog more generously because you can keep paying the dog while you buy yourself some time to look around and said, hey, what can I use to remember this high that we found? So maybe, crack near the threshold or, crack left, like you chose a landmark, right? Or
Yeah.
something that is stationary in the area. And you always use that as your anchor point to say, okay, in relation to that object or the thing that you choose, where is the high that you found?
Yeah, I like that. I also like a little thing. I want to tease out a little thing you just said that has been useful to me, and that is the idea of rewarding generously, or even if you're only doing one treat in between searches, that's a great little downtime, right? Because you need to hand the dog the treat. The dog needs to chew the treat. Otherwise, might not go back to hunting right away. And that's a little chance for us as handlers to kind of look around and go, all right, what did we just find? And where do we maybe want to think of going next? Where haven't we gone?
That's usually a great little pause, just like, running in agility. The pause table usually give people a chance to just stop running like a crazy fool and catch their breath.
Right. And this is a version of that, except for just in scent work.
Right.
When I showed under you, one of the things I loved about you as a judge was the kind of the hides that you set. And I don't have the words, but I'll just describe it. It's like when there's a hide and my dog alerts on it, I'm like, really? Could that possibly be it? And I call alert because I trust my dog's training, and it's there. It like sparks a little delight. It's not the common on a chair. It's not the common on a table. There was one search where you had 2 floor drains, and I know some judges shy away from floor drains, but you're an expert judge, so you must have known that it was going to work. And you had mirrored hides there, and I found one. I didn't find the other just because I wasn't paying attention. But that delighted me. I enjoyed that. So when you're placing hides, what do you keep in mind? Do you keep in like what might delight my competitors when they find it? Do you try to do places where people don't normally go? What's your thoughts there?
Well, some judges really like to set hides that are complicated by itself. I like hides that are straightforward,
Hmm.
but because of the combo of several hides together, or the space of the search area, um, I would like to test teams on different skills. Like many teams would not let the dog go out of the boundary uh, much. I've seen people telling their dog, too far, or I guarantee you there is no source there. Actually, people usually say, I guarantee you it's not there, or something to that effect. And another thing that, that I tell my students a lot is, so source is not outside of the boundary, but odor can be outside of the boundary. And just because you cannot see it doesn't mean it doesn't travel away from the boundary. And telling the dog that they cannot go out doesn't make sense to the dog at all.
Right. It makes
And
sense to us because we see the cones, we know what the area
right,
is, but to
right.
them,
So the cone or the dots, they're just telling you not to call something outside of those boundaries. Your dog, if your dog is working and searching within reason, I totally would let my dog go out of boundary to chase odor and, find information they need. You know, the boundary markers are not like force walls where, you know, excuse my language, odor doesn't say, holy shit,
I
this
can't
is
go here.
boundary marker. We
This
have
is
to
out of
stop
bounds.
right here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It doesn't make sense. And when you restrict the dog from going out, um, like really like some people just even, restricting the leash when even when the dog hasn't really crossed that boundary, they already are not wanting to let the dog go. And sometimes, judges place a high that they know odor will be traveling out. And if you don't let your dog go out, doesn't mean they cannot solve the problem, but it will just take them a lot longer. Other analogy I tell my clients is, it's like you're trying to solve a murder. And rather than looking at clues everywhere, you insist that your detective can only look at the dead body. You're like, this is dead. Look at the body. Okay, tell me who killed this person, right?
Right.
So, and I'm not saying, the dog can just go out of boundary for a long time and not coming back. I know it's all within reason, right? If I interpret my dog's behavior right now is working and searching, and they're trying to chase a clue or follow a scent trail, I'll let them go to a certain extent. And, if I don't want them to go any further, I can hold on to that leash. And just by holding on to that leash and not giving them any more leash to go out, they understand I have no intention of following them or wanting them to go further. I don't even have to say a word. Just by holding that leash, I'm communicating to my dog, hey dude, this is as far as you go. And because so many people say like verbally, say things to their dog, I usually stay pretty quiet to my dog when they search. Because usually when I say something, it draws a lot of attention on me as a handler. And I just want my dog to know, yes, I don't want to go any further, but don't mind me, still keep searching.
I wanted to ask, you've ran multiple breeds very successfully. I know a handler here in our area that has a Shiba. And I'm getting the impression Shibas are very independent. They kind of want to do things their way. Is that the case? Was that your experience?
Yeah, they're usually described as cat-like,
Okay.
stubborn.
So, what other breeds have you ran? And then ultimately, the question I want to get to is, what have you learned from running different breeds? Because I kind of joke to myself, I run an Australian Shepherd, and it's almost like somebody that runs a Shiba versus me, like they're probably better at training and handling if they're competing at the same level because, Aussies just have that high drive. They kind of want to please their owners. And if you have dogs that kind of don't want to do those things, it can be a little bit more challenging. So, what have you learned from handling different dogs with different temperaments?
Well, I'm glad I didn't start with my first Aussie as my first dog, Cajun. So he is also an Australian Shepherd. Um, the Shibas teach me that it's the drive, the motivation, the clarity you have to instill in a breed that doesn't understand what you want. Like for the Shibas that I trained before and handle in competition, knowing what I know now, I feel sorry for them because a lot of time, they found the only hide or two hides or whatever hides that are out there in the search area when it's unknown number. And because they don't look like they're actively looking or excitedly looking everywhere like some lab or some Aussie or some German Shepherd, I think of them as not working. And when I
Uh-huh.
think of them as not working, I ask them to check more. And they act like I'm the stupidest person ever. And then that makes me feel like, oh, my dog's not working.
Uh-huh.
We must have missed something. So I ask them to check more, right?
Right.
Um, it's just a vicious cycle. I did not know what I didn't know. And I just blame it as, oh, my dog is not as flashy or as drivey as the next person. But if I understand what I know now, I would take a much different approach. You know, dogs can be trained without spending a, a, a large quantity of time to train. I'm a very lazy person. I tell my students I'm lazy. I don't train very often, but when I do train nowadays, I train important stuff. So I don't just throw out a bunch of hides and said, hey, let's go find it. There's a reason of what I want to do. I train with a purpose, and you can save a lot of time and be a lazy trainer and still have good success.
I like it. Sandra's lazy training method.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
when you do train, give us an example of some of the very specific things that you'll train for then. What kind of things do you really like to set up? You've already mentioned one, like you like to do some simple hides and just really be a hot date. That builds drive and desire to do the game. What are some other training things that you feel is really important? Like what's in your top 5 training things for the lazy trainer?
So first, for any scent work dog, uh, it's the importance of the desire to hunt. So most people find like a chair high, a high underneath a folding chair is a very typical meat and potato type of high that you will encounter in the sports. You will say that's an easy high. But if you put that high on a 1 acre search area and your start line is 1 mile away from there, is that an easy high? Is that
Nope.
an easy search? It is not.
No.
It is not a easy search, not because of the puzzle type that you will encounter. It's just a silly chair height. It's hard because where the dog starts, there is no odor.
Yeah.
Does the dog have the desire to think the glass is half full and want to keep searching, right?
Mhm.
So it's very important to instill in a young dog or any dog that if they look, they will find something.
Got
And
it.
you don't start with a dog that, put a high on 1 acre and so far away, right? You build that up so that your dog is crazily optimistic about their opportunity of finding something.
Right. And maybe the
So,
first time it's 10 feet away, the next time it's 20 feet away, the next time it's 30 feet away. You build that up just like you do any sort of training, you incrementally build.
right. You want to teach that concept, right? The desire to hunt is very important. The ability to identify the target odor, when it's readily available, that's easy. The hard part is if it's not there right where you start, does the dog have the desire to look for it and hunt for it? If they don't, that's the first thing that I want to work on. The second piece is a lot of people focus on wanting an indication, wanting a communication from the dog. I would say the most important thing of the game is not who has the best indication. It's about finding source, right? So some people just jump the gun, put the coach in front of the horse, and said, I really want a strong indication. But at the end of the day, it's really finding hide, finding source that drive all the rewards. Without finding source, without finding the hide, No matter what your dog does, whether they stand on their head and backflip 3 times,
That would be a
it's
cool
not
final response.
it's not gonna be making a difference, right? And so most people, get worried about, yes, at a trial, if my dog is not clear, then I wouldn't be able to call it or read it. I always tell people, if your dog doesn't know what to tell you, it doesn't matter how they tell you.
Yeah, right.
So those are the things that I work on really early. And if my dog has any environmental sensitivities or not comfortable with certain setup, I want to work on that outside of searching so that they are counter conditioning, so that, they are okay to function in all environments. Other thing I work on with my young dogs are understanding that it's their job to move on from the found hide and not me moving them. So if you watch my video, you will see my cue for Chiron is just okay. Okay means you're okay to search on. And I usually don't move a foot at all when I said okay. He knows it's time to move on so that the dog can quickly decide which direction to take and start searching right away versus thinking around or, running, 10, 20 feet away from the found hides before they start thinking about searching again.
Yeah, or being influenced by your movement. Again, it comes back to, like you said, you don't like to talk to them because you don't want to pull them out of that moment. You don't want to move after they found the hide because that also pulls them out of the moment. Let them decide.
Yes. So I have gone through 5, 6 personal nosework dogs right now. And Chiron is the best trained in terms of the understanding of moving on his own. Uh, I didn't realize that's a skill we need until dog number 5.
Wow, okay.
uh, but he is he knows like until he hear the word okay, which is my release to search again. You can say anything you want, but for me and for him, it's okay. He knows time to move on. You know, I again, I like to use analogies. So I tell students, I said it's like, this bar is closing. If you want more beer, time to look for the next one. I'm not gonna, influence where you go, but go find the next beer. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pick up the tab, but time to move on.
But you gotta find the place. You gotta find the
Uh
place
huh.
that's open. I love it.
Yes.
I love
So
it.
dogs need to understand that. And other things in terms of training is if you want to train a concept or a skill, such as moving on their own and not going back, there's no need to do it in a full blown search, right? I always tell people I can put hides really visible, multiple hides, and I pick up each hide as they find them so that the dog is like, oh, yeah, I got pay for this one, hide number 1. Mom picks it up. Mom doesn't move. Mom said, go find another or whatever mom says. And there's really another one nearby. Since I pick up the hide that they just found, there's no way for them to keep saying, hey, why don't you pay me again? Because
Yeah,
my thing is out there to pay again.
right.
Then they go to the next one and you pay them so generously. You are trying to build an understanding of, yes, when you will get paid, right? Generously on each hide you find. But once mom straightened up and said the word to search again, there's no need to fumble around and ask for more. As they have that expectation, you can start leaving the hide vessel, the scent vessel on the ground or wherever, they find them to see if that assumption you built still holds. Right? Because eventually you cannot pick them up,
Right.
right?
The
And
judge you
this
would
is
Judge Sandra would not like it if I was picking up hides as I
right.
found them in her
And
search
and this
area.
is an easy drill where you're just teaching a concept. You can get a lot more repetition, clarity in this. You actually want all the hides to be found. So you are not trying to do anything crazy, trying to set them, so that the dog takes a while to find them. You really want them to find them so that you can practice moving on.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think of many skills you want to teach and think of them as a way of a concept that you want to teach in a smaller segment rather than a real search, how can you do it? How can you get that message across and get more repetition so that the dog is clear on what you want?
Sandra, this has been fantastic. We're going to wrap up now with the segment I call 7 questions. Are you ready for this?
I guess so.
I was kind of hoping there'd be a little bit more enthusiasm.
All right. Well, I like to talk about training, but not, you know, what
Well,
my signature distractors. I don't have any.
okay. Well, all right. Well, did I send you the list? I normally don't send.
No,
Oh, you've listened.
I
Okay.
listen to your podcast just like you. I did my researches too.
Oh, good for you. All right. Well, we're going to do 7 questions. I want to get your take on this. It's 7 quick questions, a sentence or 2 per one, just whatever comes to mind first.
Sure.
And I'll skip the signature distractor question since you didn't have one. All right, here we go. 7 questions with Sandra Tung. What's your dog's favorite reward after a great search? How are you a hot date for your dog? And be specific.
I think for the Aussies, the 2 Aussies boys that I run right now, they are willing to eat anything. So Cajun is on a restricted diet, so he's always on Stella and Chewy Rabbit. Chiron can eat anything, so I very rarely use low-value treats with my
Okay.
dogs when I
All
train.
right.
I think it's the Shiba that trained me really well. I used to have a Shiba that think string cheese is really low value. And I remember I went to Costco to buy some freshly cut mozzarella. And when I go through the cashier, she was trying to strike a small conversation. And she said, "How do you like this?" I said, "You'll have to ask my dog."
Oh, man. That's funny. What's one piece of advice you'd give your beginner scent work self?
Train for the desire to play, not for finding hides. Finding hides will come eventually.
That's great. What do you hope competitors say about your searches?
They are fair, they are doable, and they have a good time with
I
their
like it.
dogs.
Fair, doable, and fun. That's good. If you have a tough trial day, and I mean, I don't know that you ever have, based on how I've seen things go for you, how do you bounce back from that?
I have to remember this is not war peace. Nobody gets killed.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
my dog doesn't lie. My dog might have a misunderstanding, and I need to clarify whatever that misunderstanding is. So need to pick yourself up or myself up and have a good time with my dog, no matter what the outcomes are.
Does your dog have a search quirk or a funny habit, or made you laugh in a search one time? You have a quick story to share about that?
Both boys try so hard that their desire to go to source sometimes just makes me laugh. I got I got Chiron jumping on the windowsill that is very narrow. I don't know how he did it, but he jumped on it and found a high on the windowsill. And Cajun, there are multiple times where it's inaccessible but high, but he tried to push himself through it and move things to get to source.
I love that drive. That's beautiful. And what's the best compliment that you ever gotten at a trial? And this can be as a judge or a competitor. Just think of a compliment you got that you really thought, that made me feel pretty good.
When I was running the Shiba, I have judges telling me, I don't know how you can read those dogs, but but I have to hand it to you that you read them correctly.
I love it. Sandra, thank you very much. Let's talk about where people can find you if they want to connect. So obviously the AKC Judges Directory, you can find Sandra there if you were like, hey, I want her to come judge one of our trials. Facebook, just under your name, Sandra Tung.
Yeah, I don't really have a business page. I have a Facebook page for just my students.
Oh, okay.
But I don't really have a public facing business page.
Okay. And I'm friends with you at Sandra Tung, so I can follow your adventures there. I'd imagine other people could as well. And then you also teach scent work just under your name, Sandra Tung.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, it's been a pleasure talking with you and your listeners.
It's been so much fun. So thank you for sharing your time and perspective. I really appreciate all of that. And if you like this episode, be sure to let Sandra know and let other people know if you like this episode so they can listen and support this community. You can listen, of course, wherever you podcast, or you can go to alertscentwork.com. Sandra, thanks for being on Alert Scent Work.
Thank you for having me.